The congressional baseball game was held tonight at Nationals Park. At least I hope that's why Marjorie Taylor Greene had a bat. You going to the baseball game? What game?
A lot of them suffer from an irrational fear of women. Women intimidate them. Doesn't really have anything to do with the baseball bat. It's just that they're confused about gender, their own, the gender of others. You know, they're Democrats. There was a congressional baseball game last night, and it was a riot. I've got to say, I stayed up until the end. It was later than I had anticipated. I get up pretty early, you know. But it was a lot of fun. And the Democrats didn't do very well. A lot of them might have been women, people posing as men. A couple of the women they had out there might have been men. Watching the game last night, I was beginning to understand where the Democrat Party's confusion may be coming from. 8 protesters arrested at congressional baseball game. I certainly hope and assume they're going to get the January 6th treatment. I mean, this was an official proceeding of Congress there on the baseball field, an annual tradition. Been happening, I think, since 1909. And gangs of Democrats, they were there supporting Hamas and opposing Israel because they hate the Jews. I'm telling you, they really do. We should whip out that Tom Lehrer song, shouldn't we? Because maybe a little throw the Jew down the well, too, because it might be time for that. Democrats took over a subway train in New York City. It was like the taking of Pelham 123, but by radical Islamic jihadi supporters. Anyway, last night at the baseball game, I'll get back to all that. Last night at the baseball game, it was at Nationals Park in Washington, D.C. I saw it last night from my bedroom. I see the lights of the stadium out the window. Kind of fun, and they were playing. They were on quite late last night at the thing. And they had friends there, of course, good friends there. And one of them, what is the T-shirt that was? I'm not sure. I want to go throwing names around. I'll let him do it for himself. I'll let him do it on his own. But what was it? Level Gaza, the T-shirt. One of our great friends from the radio station here was at the baseball game wearing a T-shirt with kind of a gray camouflage design, I think, and in huge letters on the chest, Level Gaza. And that is a statement likely to start a conversation when there are Democrats around. But he was not one of the 8 protesters arrested rushing the field. They were there because they want to end fossil fuels, and they were behaving in a very peculiar way. I don't know if you saw them, but they were all wearing kind of a uniform of khaki pants or khaki shorts, right? And then white shirts and something about fossil fuels. I don't know how they got to the baseball stadium. Maybe they walked there from the U.S.-Mexico border. It's hard to say. And they rushed the baseball field, and little time was wasted before they were trounced. And honestly, I texted my friends at Newsmax with a video clip of these people rushing the baseball field last night. And I think I said something like, they look like they're doing hallucinogens. They look like they're doing LSD or something. They had this glassy-eyed malaise about them and were moving strangely and had these weird smiles, grins on their faces. And they were all middle-aged white guys, weren't they? I think they're all middle. And at least one of them, maybe 2 of them, assaulted this female police officer who was down on the ground. I'm sure she's going to get, all the respect that she's due. The female police officer knocked to the ground, and these people are going to get 22 years in prison, or like Enrique Tarrio, who wasn't even at the Capitol on January 6th. But these guys they attacked members of Congress at a baseball field. Last time that happened, Steve Scalise was shot and nearly killed by a Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer named James Hodgkinson. Democrats can go around shooting members of Congress. It's never much of a news story. Not like January 6th, where Ashley Babbitt was shot and killed by Lieutenant Byrd of the U.S. Capitol Police. He was promoted. I think he got an award for that, too. Was it a marksmanship award? Is that what it was that they gave him? The Democrats, because they're the left now, they love killing. They love death more than we love life. they might be sued by Al Qaeda for stealing their slogan, their mantra, the Democrat Party. Amazing stuff. So, congressional baseball game descends into chaos after protesters storm field. I'm not sure it wasn't sustained chaos. It was a moment of chaos, to be sure. And my best girl and I and our friend Randy, who runs the Chris Plant store, we were out and about last night, and we were at an establishment, a wide-open establishment with big screen TVs, where when we got there, they didn't have the congressional baseball game on. But Randy said, hey, the congressional baseball game's on. So they put it on the big screens, and, we enjoyed cool beverages and food and had a nice time. It was good. And then headed home because it was going real slow. It took a long time. I think the TV guide, on the screen on your TV said the game was supposed to end at 9:30. It actually ended at a couple of minutes before 11 p.m. Went a little longer than anticipated. Congress, the gears of government grind slowly. But it was quite a remarkable game, and that is, the fun part, the really fun part, was the end result of the game, because about the fourth inning or so, I was texting with friends saying that the Republicans should go for 30 runs. They should go for 30 runs. And sure enough, they just kept going and going, and I think they had one inning where they had 7 runs, and the Democrats were not playing well because they're gender dysphoric and all that stuff. But it was an amazing thing to watch, not just the protesters, because they care very deeply about the climate. And I was texting friends saying also, if they really cared about the climate, they wouldn't just rush a baseball field. They'd self-immolate. Come on. I mean, that's the way Democrats show that they really care. There was an environmentalist who went to the Supreme Court about 2 years ago on Earth Day, and he self-immolated. Why don't they all self-immolate? Where are those special lighters anyway? We've got to find those special lighters, because it was, it was something. Yes, it was. This baseball game, it was a lot of fun to watch. Not if you're a Democrat. The stands emptied out over time because, the Democrats were not having a good time. They lost the game. It's a spoiler alert in case you hit the DVR and you haven't watched it yet. It was a slow-moving game, but it was fun. And protesters disrupt congressional baseball games. Republicans have 31-11 decisive victory. The Republicans got 31 runs. It was like playing a Little League team. I thought they were going to implement the slaughter rule at the end like they do with grammar school baseball teams so the kids don't go home feeling bad. And the Democrats were not feeling bad. And Congressman Steve Scalise, who was shot and nearly murdered, nearly assassinated by the Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer, James Hodgkinson, who I think he shot 5 people that day, and then he was shot to death by the police. It was a suicide attack. This is the actual audio from that actual event where Steve Scalise was shot by the Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer. Martin Luther King Jr. was shot by a Democrat presidential campaign volunteer too. Shot and killed because, Democrats do a lot of this stuff. But Steve Scalise was there, and he went up to bat. And the Democrat, he's not much for pitching. He looked more like a catcher to me. But he threw 4 pitches, and there were 4 balls, and Steve Scalise got a walk. He was walked, and even though he was shot with an SKS rifle, a combat-style rifle from China, he has trouble walking and maneuvering because it was a very severe, nearly fatal injury. Another one of the Republican members of Congress that was on the baseball field in Alexandria that day, medical doctor, provided triage and saved Steve Scalise's life on the field there after James Hodgkinson, the Bernie Sanders Democrat Party campaign volunteer, had been shot and killed by the U.S. Capitol Police. And remarkable stuff. But Steve Scalise did walk to first base, and then he got a pinch hitter to take over for him there. The news media pays no attention. That's not a news story. Now, January 6th, that's a big news story because who was the idiot the other day that was saying that I think it was Bill Maher, talking about all the police officers that were killed at the Capitol on January 6th. They don't follow the news. They're not good with news and information. They're not smart people. They're not truthful people. They're not honest people. What are they, Michael?
Democrats.
They're Democrats. They're Democrats. That's the problem that we have with them. So the baseball game last night, and the funniest part really was the final score of 31-11. That was quite funny. The lunatics and glassy-eyed loons in some kind of a weirdo uniform rushing the field, and then they're posting all over X how important they are and how they were bloodied and they're covered in blood, and they're not. They were smirking and giggling and they were tackled and they're arrested. But since they attacked members of Congress and assaulted U.S. Capitol Police, I assume they're going to get the January 6th treatment and get many years in prison for their activities yesterday. Either that or they'll be let go without bail and never hear another word about it. Could be the second thing. We'll have to see. I haven't looked this morning to see what's happening to them, but I'm betting they didn't spend the night in jail, even though, because, we've got two different systems of justice in the United States. It's not really two tiers so much as it is two totally different systems of justice, but we'll get to that. And did you see Harvard University has a study out? We did this last night on my Newsmax show. Great story. The Harvard University and another university in Montana, they've got a new study out, and it says that there's about a 10% chance that there are aliens living, space aliens, not illegal aliens from Mexico, not gang members from Venezuela. We have lots and lots of those. Oh, and I've got an update on the Tajikistan terrorists that sauntered across our border and were arrested in New York and Philadelphia and Los Angeles. Just terrorists with ISIS from Tajikistan, which is, as you might imagine, in the stands. It's right there amongst the stands. And the Tajiks, they're arrested in New York, Philadelphia, and Los Angeles. They're ISIS people, and Joe Biden waved them into the country. And now they have this ridiculous study out. Our own government, Department of Homeland Security, says that their vetting process may not be everything that it should be. They could have asked me about this a couple of days ago. Could have saved a lot of money on this study. Remarkable stuff. But I've got that for you, the DHS study, because, they say maybe we should be doing a better job of vetting terrorists that come into the country from the stands, from ISIS-K and Tajikistan. Just a thought. Yeah, you guys should give that some thought. But that's part of the illegal alien problem. But Harvard University, they've got the story. And it's a study from Harvard, so it's got to be taken seriously because it's Harvard. And everything from Harvard is as serious as a heart attack. Remarkable stuff. But they say that there may be space aliens from other galaxies far, far away, living among us here in the United States of America and elsewhere in the world. And they might be living underwater. They might be living under the ocean or under Lake Michigan because their spacecraft might go in there and they just hang out down there and listen to the bubbling sound because, you got to have the bubbling sound in the background. Got that. And that's a fun story. Hey, wait, one of the people arrested was a lady at the baseball field? I didn't see that. I think that's sexist. Are you a biologist? Yeah, that's true. I'm not a biologist, so I can't really say. I haven't asked her for her pronouns yet. That's true. Also, we've got a portion of the Putin's Russian fleet arriving in Havana, Cuba, 90 miles off of our southeastern coast, more or less. Russian warships arrive in Cuba ahead of military exercises. Tensions with West over Ukraine. Oh, and Joe Biden. He brought Hunter Biden's kids, his adult kids, but they left out Navy Jones. She's not coming along. To Italy on Air Force One, apparently, with Joe Biden. Hey, Grandpa, can we go to the G7 with you to Italy? And Joe said, who are you again? And then they got the green light to bring the grown grandkids along to Italy because, it's free. He calls it his plane because he's got a lot of mental issues. Lots and lots of mental issues. So we've got the G7. Hunter Biden can't travel there because he's a convicted felon and he can't leave. He's waiting for sentencing. He can't leave the country. Hunter Biden can't. So even on Air Force One, they could put him in the baggage compartment or something, the luggage hold. But he can't leave the country on account of he's a convicted felon. That's right, on account of. Yes, our vetting is inadequate. Brooklyn Museum attacked by anti-Semites. Los Angeles, Cal State, Los Angeles, building taken over. I think there are hostages being held there by Kill the Jews Democrats, and there are a lot of them. Amazing. The Democrats took over a subway train in favor of Hamas in New York City. It's the taking of Pelham 123 all over again. Nathan Wade speaks. Remember Nathan Wade? Great stuff. And Joe Biden may not pardon Hunter Biden, but might he commute his sentence? We are at 888-630-9625. The lunatics, they're everywhere. And they're Biden voters. They're Hillary voters, they're Obama voters. They're racists, they're anti-Semites, they're anti-American. Democrats. Let's take a phone call, Michael. Let us go to Rick calling from Elmwood Park, New Jersey. Ricardo, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, thanks for taking my call. Listen, I heard that the climate protesters are pissed off at the Hamas-Palestine protesters for hogging all the news airtime, and they called them baby-killing terrorist supporters. And the Hamas protesters heard that, and they said that the climate protesters are a bunch of scientifically ignorant, tree-hugging pussies.
Uh-oh. Well, that's a little bit of language from both sides of the aisle there. Listen, I again, last night I said when I saw the climate activists attack the baseball field, I said I don't think they really mean it until they self-immolate. And as for it's true, the pro-Hamas people in the crowd with their Palestinian flags, and they're waving, they think it's a happy thing, like they're waving a gay pride flag or something like that. But they're supporters of a genocidal death cult, a radical Islamic terrorist army hell-bent on the murder of millions of Jewish people and wiping Israel off the map. But they have the support of the Democrat Party writ large. How did that happen, Rick?
Joe Biden?
Yeah, well, Joe Biden and Barack Obama and the Democrat Party. And, honestly, it is critical race theory and the world is broken into it. It all goes back to this critical race theory stuff that they've been teaching in schools, that all people of color are victims of all people who are not of color, whatever that means. Of course, Jewish people are Semites and Arabs are Semites, but never mind that. That doesn't matter to the left. They just like racial divisions and ethnic divisions because they seize on these divisions, they fan the flames of the divisions, and then they seek to secure power by way of the political, ethnic, racial, religious divisions. That's what the left is doing here. Yes. I do love the secret UFO civilization. Aliens could be here on Earth already living among us, according to Harvard. I will get to that today. And the Democrats, speaking of space aliens, they're taking over subway trains and university buildings and attacking congressional baseball fields. And we're going to have to see what kind of arrests and penalty they're looking at, what the charges are for that, because that was an insurrection. That was an official congressional, semi-official congressional event at Nationals Park, the baseball stadium, where the Washington Nationals play professional baseball. But we'll get back to that. Right now, I want to talk about, because Democrats, not only are they anti-Semites and anti-American and American flag burners and anti-capitalists and violent mobs and all that stuff, genocidal, they should be wearing armbands. They're not on our side. But they're also transgender. Are all Democrats transgender, Michael? It's cum si, cum sa. An awful lot of them. Honestly, if you're looking at that, that's a Democrat Party thing. And they've got this one who's kind of well-known transgender person, goes by the name Lia Thomas. Lia Thomas's real name is William. Billy Bob. Should we call him William and Billy? But this guy goes by the name. He's got male genitalia and goes into the ladies' locker room and flaps around and says, "How you doing, girls? Hey, I'm going to mop the floor with you today, I'm telling you." Lia Thomas has been very eager to swim in the Olympics for the U.S. Olympic team as a woman. as a lady. But we're not East Germany. And East Germany used to send these bulky, they'd say they were women, and then people, and they'd take a peek in the locker room and like, hey, that's not a lady, man. That's a man. And now let's go. I want to go to this soundbite first from June 1st of 2022. So about 2 years ago on the Good Morning America program, ABC Fake News, George Snuffleupagus of the Clinton White House, and then boom, he's a journalist. It's amazing. Just slip it right in there. Just there you go. Your George Stephan. So here, June 1st, 2022, with William Thomas, a.k.a. Lia Thomas, big, very successful college swimmer, competitive swimmer, took all the women's trophies from them and the belts, and I don't know what they give out, crowns, things like that, scepters, won everything, stole everything. It's not really winning everything, is it? It's stealing everything. It's like, it's not fair, and we've always known that. But here is William/Lia Thomas, June 1st, 2022, Good Morning America, saying, gosh, I really want to swim against women in the Olympics and get a gold medal because there is no limit to my urge to cheat and steal.
Are there Olympics in your future?
It's been a goal of mine to swim at Olympic trials for a very long time, and I would love to see that through.
Listen to her voice. That nice lady voice there. Some enchanted evening. Honestly, it was that Lia Thomas. I think it might have been Mario Lanza posing as had a little Mario Lanza thrown in there. Why not? Amazing stuff. So Lia Thomas, who's really William Thomas, who's a man who has male genitalia and is not a lady and not a woman. Big headline today because the left is very upset. Left is, they're always upset about something. They want to burn a police car for one thing or another. They really should stick to self-immolation, and always use a Zippo lighter for that because, you don't want that Bic lighter to let you down right when it matters the most. Now, here is Newsweek fake magazine. Didn't they sell for like $1 the whole magazine a couple years ago? Lia Thomas speaks out after 2024 Olympics dream crushed. Well, honestly, if his Olympic dream has been crushed, then that's great news for all the women swimming in the Olympics because he's a cheater with male genitalia and everything else. And so the people at Newsweek magazine, and it actually popped at 6:23 this morning on Al Gore's amazing internet because you know how Al Gore loves his internet. So the story is transgender swimmer Lia Thomas has spoken out after losing a legal battle that will essentially see her, meaning him, barred from competing in next month's Olympics in Paris, France. 3 judges on the Court of Arbitration for Sport, and then that's abbreviated CAS. So now in parentheses. So now whenever anyone says CAS to you, you know that it means the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Why would you put that in parentheses? On Wednesday, that's yesterday, the 3-judge panel in the Court of Arbitration for Sport on Wednesday dismissed the athlete's request for arbitration with World Aquatics, the global sport governing body for swimming, over rules that it introduced regarding transgender competitors. Now, what did they do? Well, World Aquatics voted in June 2022 to prohibit transgender women, meaning men, and I don't say biological men because that is superfluous when you're talking about men versus women. I'm not a biologist like some Supreme Court justices aren't, but I know what a man is and I know what a woman is. I know. I've checked. I've looked. All that stuff. But the World Aquatics voted June of 2022 to prohibit transgender women, meaning men, who had been through male puberty from competing in women's elite races. Why do they have to bring race into it all the time? The organization introduced an open category, listen to this, an open category in its 50-meter and 100-meter races across all strokes. Now they're getting weird on us over here. First it's race, now it's strokes, which would allow for the inclusion of those whose gender identity differs from their birth sex. There's a lot of mental illness out there. And really, we should just call this mental illness the Democrat Party. Oh, so you're a Democrat. You got some severe mental illnesses. I'm very sorry for you. I really am. I feel bad for you. But, I mentioned this yesterday, I think. I saw a doctor, a pediatrician, saying that entertaining the idea that a young person wants to change their gender and saying, oh, yes, let's pump you full of steroids or give you surgery and sever your genitalia is like discovering that a teenage girl has bulimia and prescribing liposuction, right? Oh, you have bulimia? It's probably because you're fat. And liposuction will clean that right up. So you got a little, teenage girl with bulimia, and you prescribe liposuction. I thought that was an apt analogy, an apt comparison. Wonderful stuff. So this organization that came up with their own category for transgender swimmers, right, just for the 50-meter and the 100-meter races in all strokes. So they got races and strokes, different strokes for different races. And Lia Thomas asked CAS, see, we're already using it now, casual conversation, to overturn the ruling last year, arguing that guidelines were discriminatory and unlawful. The rules were put in place after former University of Pennsylvania student Lia Thomas became the first transgender woman, meaning man, to secure a National Collegiate Athletics Association swimming championship victory in 2022. And the news media applauded this because they're all mentally ill in the news media. It's amazing. Well, virtually all of them. Just my opinion. I'm not a psychiatrist. I haven't analyzed all of them, but I've been paying attention for some time now. So in its ruling regarding Lia Thomas's challenge, the Switzerland-based court said the panel concludes that she, meaning he, lacks standing to challenge the policy and the operational requirements in the framework of the present proceeding. They all talk like that, don't they? That's amazing stuff. So they've got that going for them, and they just, because they get weirder and weirder all the time, don't they? Transgender swimmer Thomas out of Olympics after losing legal battle. And again, this governing body, as they call it, they got to have a lot of governing bodies because they're commies. They've always got a committee and a subcommittee and a chairwoman who's often a man and all this stuff. They're really screwed up people, and they should be ignored. But the Court of Arbitration for Sport, the CAS, they dismissed the charge because World Aquatics said, well, we're going to create a separate category that will allow for people that identify as a gender other than their own to compete in this category against other people and only against other people who also have similar gender dysphoria issues, right? So isn't that wonderful? Now, with all of that in mind, and good for all of these organizations who said, listen, dude, you don't look like a lady. You don't swim like a lady. You're not a lady. You're a man, and you can't compete against these young women in the Olympics and steal what they've worked their whole lives to achieve. And this is the crowning moment of their young lives. They make it to the Olympics in Paris, France, no less. And then this dude walks in and says, like, when you heard his voice, yeah, somebody throw me a beer. Are you kidding me? And this dude walks around with a straight face. And when I say straight face, I'm using the term advisedly.
All trans kids deserve the opportunity to compete and play in the sports they love without compromising who they are.
I want to compete and play. As who I am. Now, Riley Gaines, the wonderful Riley Gaines, who had to compete against this dude and have her achievements stolen away from her by this guy who is a disgrace to maleness everywhere. But the Democrats, they think masculinity is toxic. They think transgenderism is mainstream, as they are in the process of making women more masculine in our culture. They're simultaneously making men less masculine. They're emasculating men, and they're masculating women. Their women have beards. You see the dude at the White House the other day for that misplaced Joe Biden black event for Juneteenth, which is actually next week, but never mind that. Democrats and their calendars. The Gregorian calendar doesn't apply to them or the government. And, their calendar starts in October or something. And everything is just completely screwy because of the left everywhere you look. But there was that dude who was dressed like a lady, like a 50-something-year-old black guy with a gray beard who was dressed in a full-length spangled gown. Is that the right word, spangled? And, is that what it is? I'm looking around. Everybody's like, I don't know. So, it's a gun. With those white high-heeled boots. These boots are made for walking. And they all act like this is normal. And the dude with the beard and the dress and the lady's shoes walked over and kissed Joe Biden's hand like they were dating and he was the boy. It was the Democrat Party. That's amazing stuff. Now let's get to Riley Gaines, soundbite number 9. She was live on the television this morning in the 6 a.m. hour of the Fox News Channel, and I was watching her for you. And Riley Gaines talking about the fact that this William Thomas, a.k.a. Lia Thomas dude, has been told that he will not be competing in the Olympics on the U.S. Olympic team, making us East Germany during the Cold War, sending men in and telling the Olympics, no, these are women. And, except for the male genitalia and the hairy chests and, the weightlifting physique. Never mind that. So here is Riley Gaines telling the truth, and she's so wonderful. She's with the Leadership Institute, and she's with a couple. I'm going to have to look up all the organizations she's with now. But she's just wonderful. Riley Gaines this morning talking about Lia Thomas being disqualified from the Olympics.
It's sad that this is where we're at. It should have never gotten this far. I cannot believe we have to have a court ruling to know that it's unfair for men to compete in women's sports. That's like having a judge ruling that the sun sets in the west. But nonetheless, this is a victory. This is a victory for women and girls everywhere. This is a victory really for humanity, this ruling.
And the absolutely true. I've made the same analogy with the court ruling where the sun comes up and goes down. These things couldn't be more obvious, but the Democrats are mentally ill. And Riley Gaines saying all the headlines are like, oh no, poor Lia Thomas has been banned from the Olympics. Let's straighten that out.
We've seen the headlines. We've seen the reports. Many of them say that Thomas is banned from the Olympics outright, but that's not true. No one is banning Thomas from competing in the Olympics. He has every opportunity, and I actually encourage him to compete or at least try to compete in his rightful category, that being the men's category.
That being the men's category. And he should try to compete there because he placed number 486 if he competed as a man. Riley Gaines explains that the World Aquatics Association came up with a category just for people like him.
World Aquatics, they were really one of the first ones to make the bold first step in prioritizing fairness and safety over inclusion. They created an open category. No one competed in this category. That's the reality of the situation. Thomas did not want to compete, or any trans athlete, male identifying as a woman, unless they were competing against women, dominating in the women's category, which I think, we hear the narrative of they just want to play. That has been proven to be not true on the basis of no one competing in this open category.
Demento cheaters. They're Demento cheats. It's amazing. Riley Gaines on the NCAA.
I believe the NCAA needs to remove every award, title, record from Thomas and reinstate them to the rightful and deserving female athletes that Thomas stole them from. But that would require honesty and just a little bit of courage, all of which are in very, very short supply at the NCAA.
Very, very good. Very well said. Bravo, Riley Gaines. And she would get the awards that she actually should have won had they not been stolen by this dude who towers over all the women that he was swimming against when he was stealing their trophies. And the Democrat Party and Joe Biden were all applauding this. And, Barack Obama was too, with Larry Sinclair. They were in a rumble seat of an old car, and they're clapping, yay, Larry Sinclair and Barack Obama. I made up just the last part.
Right, let me show you, baby. That ain't no woman. It's a man.
There's another crazy story out today. Matt Walsh at the Daily Wire got a hold of documents out of the Covington, Kentucky, the Covenant School, where 6 people were murdered by a transgender lunatic, a woman who wanted to be a man and was hoping to be something. I don't know. But the journals show that this woman who murdered 6 people there, a 3-page journal entry called My Imaginary Penis. My Imaginary Penis is the name of the 3-page journal entry from just before the massacre at the school of 6 innocent people by the lunatic who then had to be gunned down by the police. It was another suicide attack. But My Imaginary Penis. And I'm thinking that could be made into a movie produced by Barack Obama for Netflix. What do you think? I think he's the right guy for the job. All right, let's take a phone call. Let's go to Mike calling from Sunshine, Maryland. Michael, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Chris, thanks for taking my call. I told your screener that since 1954, about 1,800 runners have broken the 4-minute mile. I say this to all my friends who think that that trans athletes should compete. 1,800 runners have broken the 4-minute mile. Guess how many were Olympic caliber women?
How many were Olympic caliber women, Mike?
0. The world record for the mile for women is 4 minutes, 7.64 seconds. No woman has broken the 4-minute mile. Human beings are a dimorphic species. That means that biologically we are physically different.
Yeah, I've noticed that. And isn't that a great thing, Mike?
It is a wonderful thing. We're different, but yet we are compatible.
I like in all kinds of ways. We're like Legos. We snap together.
Yep. It's amazing that that these people don't see the unfairness in it.
It's a beautiful design. It's a wonderful thing. It's something that civilization has always celebrated and rejoiced in, loved, until the Democrats came along.